The ASICS Metaspeed Edge Plus, we're going to talk about it today, $250. It's out now. It is an 8mm drop shoe, max cushioned, and it is indeed a friendly and accommodating ride for those of us who don't have a booming stride. Sam from RoadTrailRun here. Let's talk about the ASICS Metaspeed Edge. They're one of their two kind of pinnacle racing shoes. I was always kind of more interested in the Edge than the Sky because of its higher drop and its focus on cadence running, whereas the Sky was more stride running. In my book, that's sort of, I read it a little differently. Edge is for rolling forward, whereas Sky is focused on runners who have a high vertical knee lift and thus a longer stride. So with version 2, there are some significant changes that I think, and we're going to find out because I'm taking them for a run right away, are going to make this an even more interesting shoe. You can sort of say it's comparable in the Nike lineup to the Vaporfly, whereas the Sky is more comparable to the Alphafly. Now, so let's get into a few details. This is a men's 8.5 US. It comes in at 7.03 ounces, 199 grams. So with a stack height of 39.31. So what ASICS has done is added 5mm more cushion to the Edge compared to version 1, keeping the drop at 8mm, whereas the Sky is 5mm. What they've also done is they've moved the carbon plate from sort of a central location. Same, the Sky 1 was also in a central location. They've moved it down. The idea is your foot will sink into this beautiful flight foam turbo and roll you forward. Whereas in the Sky, the plate sits higher, and thus when you land on that forefoot as more of a forefoot striking type runner, you'll compress the foam and rebound. So those are some of the basic differences between the two. In terms of weight, 7.03 ounces, 199 grams in my US 8.5. It weighs about 3/10 of an ounce or 9 grams more than my Vaporfly Next Percent 2, so almost nothing. We'll take a look at the ASICS grip outsole here, which should prove really durable. ASICS grip is great stuff. Now let's take a bit more of a look at the upper. And what ASICS calls this material is motion wrap. So essentially, it'll be hard to see. It's a single layer of mesh with this stitching as the support all the way through. There are a few overlays. I see a few overlays. I've tried them on, true to size fit, good snug race fit through here. It has a very nicely padded heel counter and heel collar. They didn't go with kind of the nothing padding kind of approach. You can see the heel counter is not rigid per se. It's a bit more rigid down here and at the very back, which is what you want. The hold is super secure. I just tried them on. We'll see how they actually run. Toe box room, adequate for a race shoe, and well held so far. We've got really nice laces here with a bit of kind of grip on the edges. They were easy to put on, easy to lace up. We'll see how that all holds on the run. So what I've been looking for is something other than the Vaporfly, which really suits me really well, with an idea of a rolling motion. We also have here in our toe spring a longer toe spring than in the Sky, and the plate is a different type of plate. It's more, I guess, curved on the inside, whereas the Sky, and I'll show you a picture, has a very kind of more vertical toe spring. In terms of the weight compared to the Sky, it weighs a little bit more, and I asked ASICS why, and that's because of the configuration of the foam and the shaping of the plate. So now I'm going to take them out for a first run here in Park City and let you know how it all turns out. Okay, let's talk about the fit of our Metaspeed Edge Plus. So it is definitely a true to size fit. Good hold through the midfoot, not overly snug, but just about right. Relatively broad through here, maybe a touch short, but I didn't really feel it when I was running, just walking. You can see we have denser stitching around through here and through here, but you're really locked down to the platform here. Very nice. Now the heel counter, key here, they did not skimp on the heel counter or its hold one bit, and that was really noticeable, making the shoe along with the platform very stable on the downhills, the flats, and climbing. It is very stable, among the most stable of these super shoes I've ever tried, despite that 39 millimeter heel. Okay, I'm back from 2 runs over a few days here in our Metaspeed Edge Plus, and first thing I'm going to say, which may surprise you, is that this is by far the easiest super shoe I've ever run in, and I've run in most of them to warm up at slower paces. There's nothing wrong here at 10-minute mile pace. My first run was 8:42 pace, and you can easily run slowly in these shoes, which is not the case with most of the other super shoes in my experiences, except maybe the Vaporfly, but even then, not what this guy can do. Of course, it's not the ideal shoe to do that in. You'll hear the carbon plate, and but you'll still be able to run without any awkwardness or walk without any awkwardness. Now, let's talk about the speedier stuff here. First, there's no question that this shoe, for me anyway, allows me to roll forward, as opposed to needing a lot of knee lift. I'm not that young, and shoes such as the Sky version of this, with its lower drop, more aggressive toe spring, at least in version 1, I found the heel really low, and I really only could do really fast efforts in it. Here, there's a nice smooth flow. This isn't quite the squishy, soft flow of the Vaporfly, but it feels much more stable to me, actually, with really from heel to the front, especially the forefoot. We do have 31 millimeters of that Flight Foam Turbo up front. It's a little bit firmer, I would say, than what you have in the Zoom X. A little more kind of responsive, snappy, but there's plenty of cushion here. The geometry seems to work really well with my stride, and that's sort of a rarity for me. I find that I can roll forward down onto the softish Flight Foam Turbo with the bottom loaded plate. Top loaded plates or the mid layer don't really agree with me as much. And I also find the midfoot here, even though there's nothing really carved out as you see in some shoes, such as say the Adios Pro, and I'll show you that right here. I find this shoe easier to roll through than the Adios Pro. Number 2 here, I find it easier to also roll through than the Puma FAST-R. So there's something kind of special about the shaping of the plate and the geometry here that agrees with my kind of slower paces. I will say, I noticed when I warmed up, my Garmin told me my performance condition was +3. Then when I got going, it said +4. So that would indicate that as the pace picks up, this shoe becomes more efficient. I can easily see using this for a half marathon, if not a marathon, for me. And that's kind of rarity in these super shoes, is really the only ones I've really enjoyed have been the Vaporfly, starting with the original. But here we have more cushion yet than that original Vaporfly. So the next percent, for example, is the number 2 is 40-32, and here we're 39-31, same 8 millimeter drop. Now the Adios Pro is a 10 millimeter drop shoe. It's considerably heavier, actually. It's almost a full ounce heavier in my 8.5 at almost 8 ounces than our Metaspeed Edge. The Puma, the same story, about 8 ounces 225 grams, and it's a 3730 stack, 7 millimeter drop. So a teeny bit less stack, but a bit more weight. While I preferred the massive cushion at the heel and its stability here in the Puma and the squishy, bouncy front, I had much harder time getting through from heel to midfoot and then to toe off than in the ASICS Edge. Another one to look at, of course, is the Alphafly. It's a 4 millimeter drop. I've run a half in it quite nicely without any problems. Although again, I do prefer a bit more drop. It's more sort of the stride oriented, more towards the sky, I think, than this shoe. The Alphafly weighs just a teeny bit more, but it has a bigger stack, 40-36 versus our 39-31 here. Of course, there's the Endorphin Pro, same 39-31 stack. And the weight of the Plus version is less, so that really challenges and is right up there with the Vaporfly is kind of the lightest, but these at barely 7 ounces here in a US 9, maybe a touch more. So the Endorphin Pro, all versions, I find quite a bit harsher. The speed roll is really noticed at the end of the stride, but I find it really hard to get there. And it's quite a bit firmer, I think. Even though this isn't a super soft shoe, it isn't as soft as, say, the RC Elite 2 from New Balance, which for me is just kind of too soft. It is somewhere in between, say, the Endorphin Pro's firmness of foam and Zoom X, not as soft as the Puma Nitro foam. And I think a little bit softer than the Adidas Light Strike Pro, a little bit. But the geometry really makes a big difference here for me in terms of the smoothness. You've got plenty of light weight here. Now, a few more comments about the upper. Absolutely superb. Just completely forgot about it. No awkwardness in lace-up, no hold issues, no kind of overpressure or sloppiness. This very kind of simple looking upper really stands in sharp contrast, for example, to the Adios Pro. Doesn't really have any heel counter, is kind of a mechanical, modern kind of construction, yet the whole shoe ends up weighing more. Now, while we have them kind of nose to nose, you'll note here that the spring is longer than in the Pro, and I think this really helps me. I need to, because I don't have much knee lift, I need to roll forward, whereas here I work much harder because I really should be landing further up here, whereas here I'm allowed to roll right through the stride. So, in conclusion, if you've been looking for a pair of the Metaspeed Sky Plus and can't find them, and you're not a forefoot, midfoot striker per se, most of us don't end up being there when we get tired, I think this is a superb shoe. It is certainly far to my kind of taste. It's far smoother running than the Sky was for me, which I could only really use for very short efforts. Today during my 5K, I was pretty much easy going the whole way. I was at altitude, over 2,000 meters, about 6,900 feet. My course was more than 2/3 downhill, 1/3 uphill. But still, for me, I manage a nice 7:58 per mile pace without any issues, smooth as can be the whole way. So this, I think, is one of the top marathon to shorter racing super shoes of the year. Well worth considering. I purchased my pair, and we're going to have a full multi-tester review of both Metaspeed Plus models over at RoadTrailRun real soon. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great run.